It's time for the digression. And watching my character run loops around B-roll in B-roll engaged. Right? What if Hoyoverse? Listen. No. Josh. Josh, listen. If they took it, you might as well just not have bought it in the first place. What's a good example of what you just described? Microsoft buying. Wait, who owns a IP that isn't ever coming back but they still hold the IP? What's a good example? Maybe a Japanese publisher. Or like Konami. Konami's a good one. Konami largely has IP, but they don't use the IP. Like, no IP. Like, it's just like, nah. Who owns Rare? Someone owns Rare. The developer that like spawned some of the most iconic Western video games. Who's the publisher that owns Rare? And they rarely, unintended, give them the opportunity to ever like flex out of their own IPs. Just underutilized stuff. Here's a good one. When Sony bought Insomniac Games and didn't ask for a new Ratchet & Clank game. Actually, there was one, technically, but still. When Sony bought Insomniac Games. Now, I mean, they're still doing well for themselves. Now they're just making Spider-Man games. Or imagine if Sony asked for a Resistance. Another Resistance game. That's kind of how I feel about Hoyoverse buying Warhammer Fantasy. Hoyoverse would just not make a Warhammer Fantasy. Also, obviously, I'm broad stroking about the whole missing things and deadline things. It's a heightened awareness, but it's temporarily. It's temporary. It's fickle as well. So, remember, like, I talked about it in a positive sense. I didn't talk about it in a negative sense. So when you are creating a situation for humans, if you're trying to capitalize on human heightened emotional stimuli, it can backfire just as much as it can stimulate preservation. So you can induce the heightened emotional state, but the result from that heightened emotional state is unpredictable. It's an emotional state. So when I'm saying Disney has done this and stuff, did you see when Disney failed to read their audience? Disney has just as much heightened emotional support as they are losing that support. So it's a very high risk, high reward proposition. And 40K, GW is in that position right now. So is D&D. So is Wizard of the Coast. So it's extremely volatile. I'm just stating that there's heightened emotions. I'm not necessarily stating what becomes of the emotion. Because like emotion is just inherently unpredictable. So like, for example, someone could violently hate something because of, I don't know, Zach dying or something. When someone feels like they're the main character of a game, they try to save the character. Right? So in this case, Zach embodies that. You hate Cloud. Technically you do. Joshing. If Zach did not exist, you would like Cloud more. Just saying. You're dividing your emotional investment. And Zach won the emotional investment battle. because Zack has a time limit. Cloud did not. So inherently you sideline Cloud because another character took its place. So technically, if you compared yourself, right, this is the whole like post facto thing. Like you can't take back knowing something, right? So if you didn't know that Zack existed, Cloud would be higher up because Zack would no longer be in competition for your affection. Also, I play Crisis Overlord and I never seen. Yeah, that's fair. That's fair. But you know what I mean? Like a human has limited emotional resources to give. Adding more to it adulterates the significance of it. That's what loyalty is, right? So it's a double edge. For me, like here's a disclaimer I always use. I like being cognizant and or not cognizant. I like to be conscientious. But what I'm not telling you is when I say I want to be conscientious, there's another way to express this. I'm very disloyal. Like if you're a really pessimistic person and you think about the consequences of being conscientious, it means you're impartial, right? You're impartial. And becoming impartial takes away from partialness. An aspect of partialness is loyalty. So just so you know, like, however, as a person who describes oneself, you would do yourself a disservice by using negative, stigmatized words as opposed to euphemisms. I have no problems telling other people that I'm disloyal. But when I say disloyal, I'm not saying it in a negative way. I'm just saying that I'm partial indiscriminately. So like I'm impartial, and being impartial comes with a lack of loyalty. It's a trade-off. You can't have both. Like if you're partial, you can be loyal. Like you can be really loyal. It's just inherently a trade-off. So the more conscientious you become, the less likely people will see when you open your mouth and talk about things. You will become less loyal to a particular point of view, because being conscientious means you have more than one point of view, or you strive to have more than one point of view. So a lot of times people are like, oh yeah, well, you're not loyal, like you didn't come and support me all the time. It's like, well, which part do you want of me? Do you like me to be conscientious and logical and rational and have a lot of worldly knowledge? Or do you want me to be loyal? Because they can't necessarily go hand in hand. The more knowledge you get, the more perspective you gain, the less likely you can be loyal to something. Because you can't choose anymore just one thing. You become more worldly. And I want to echo what I just said about that. If I'm using my life as an example, right? Yesterday we had a talk, Josh, about self-help books and stuff. That's what I mean by loyalty. Loyalty breeds extremely strong emotional investment. So sometimes instead of reading a lot of self-help books, like for academic purposes, like myself, which will deflate the impact of any singular self-help book, so I would become less emotionally invested. However, if you, before you go deep diving, if you have a awareness of yourself and you think that loyalty can drive you to further commit to something, finding someone you resonate with before you adulterate your perspective can actually be used to fuel and get over that emotional effort that you require. So you can't undo that the moment you expose yourself to all the other information. You can't become ignorant anymore. Like, this is the idea of innocence and naivety. You can no longer be naive and innocent. You are innocent and naive only once. So if you understand yourself, you can take advantage of it. Yeah, you've lost your ignorance. And I kid you not, for me, my loss of my ignorance made me miserable for a really long time. However, I would do it again because it led me to this point where I found my working balance for not being ignorant. But being ignorant comes with a lot of things. It comes with have a clarity of mind, a commitment, a loyalty to an approach, passion. Those things come with ignorance. And I know ignorance is a stigmatized word, so I tend to use naivety or youth or innocence. Those things are hand in hand with ignorance. To be innocent of something, you are also ignorant of it. So you can be, if it works conveniently, you can be ignorant of a crime. It exonerates you from that crime. You can be aware of that crime, and then it becomes complicity. So there's lots of trade-offs, and I have no qualms when in my 4 years of streaming, I was literally accused publicly during my stream that I am unfaithful to any one particular person because like of a guild dispute. And my response was literally, I already told you when I joined. It was a little bit too direct, but I explained that we had this arrangement already. Like, not only did you forget that I mentioned I'm joining the guild out of pragmatism. There's no loyalty or feelings or investment. We can still be players of the same game without having to be part of a guild. Like, I don't appreciate the idea that people get special treatment because they hang with a specific crew. Being conscientious also means that I don't like to pick favorites. And I'm conscientious to a degree that is detrimental to people who favor loyalty. Called out for the guys, like the person that I'm referring to literally said, like, look at this, you left the guild without telling me, and I didn't even get a notice, or like we've been together for a year, over a year. And I'm like, okay, I'll appeal to your logic. You didn't know that I wasn't part of the guild for 4 months already. So if you are expecting loyalty from someone, which you don't have to expect from me, I don't expect loyalty from you too. So I'm not going to hold it against you that you didn't even notice that I left 4 months ago. And now you're only telling me this. And you know what? That doesn't hurt me. It doesn't hurt my feelings because I don't expect loyalty from that other person either. Just as much as I told them, you do not expect loyalty from me. And yes, it's not to say that all situations are treated the same. It's just in that very situation, I take the pragmatic approach. Like, my actions in a game deals with satisfying the sum of all, not to pick one person over the other. So this person felt self-important. They were the main characters in their lives. I didn't see them as the main characters in life. I didn't even see myself as the main character. I saw many people power struggling for the same thing, and I picked the one that satisfied the most people. That's what happens when you're a conscientious person. You pick the utilitarian approach a lot of times. And that is literally being disloyal to someone. you can also phrase it in a way that you're loyal. You happen to coincidentally be loyal to 3 people instead of 1, but I don't see it that way. I see it as overall helping more people than losing more people. So yes, loyalty, conscientiousness also involves throwing someone under a bus. So there are people in this world that said like, oh, I'm always loyal, I won't throw people under a bus. Well, guess what? Being loyal to someone means you have to throw someone under a bus that isn't loyal to that person. Don't give me that crap about you can have both ways, in my opinion. I'm being very blunt about this. It is so disagreeable when someone accuses me of having moral and ethical questionability when they say they are loyal to something and at the same time they don't ever hurt anyone. Like, well, if you're partial to something, you are inherently more consistently hurting more people than choosing to cater to more people and being less loyal to a specific person, to a specific thing. That is so inherently illogical. You can be irrational about it. That's fine. I respect that. Like, emotionally, you can believe that. But don't tell me that it is pragmatic or logical, because it isn't. So that's your excuse for throwing me under? In what way did I throw you under a bus, Josh? Listen. How did I throw you under a bus? I probably threw you under a bus because I didn't contact you when you disappeared for like 3 months. That is probably the most reasonable. Like, if we're talking seriously, like, you disappeared, I didn't contact you. That's what happens. If you know what I mean. Like, a person who's too concerned about too many things tend to not go out of their way to make people feel important. That is a very reasonable, constructive criticism. I have to find a balance, but you'll probably find that I am not gonna go out of my way to make people feel special, and that's a downside. But I try to make people largely satisfied, but no particular one is going to feel particularly special unless they are the ones to demand that attention. Yeah, gosh. So that's the whole loyalty thing, right? I'm not going to treat you partially. I'm not going to be partial to you, but I don't expect you to be partial to me either. So if you dipped 3 months, I'm not going to feel betrayed, right? Like, because I'm not expecting the loyalty. So it's a mutual conscientiousness, or maybe whatever. Like, it's not a conflict of interest. There wasn't a conflict of interest. I was just referring to times when you take jabs at you. I don't even know if I take jabs at you. I think you do it really well yourself already. I think most of the times when I took jabs at you, I was reiterating your own jokes against yourself. I don't do jabs very well. I mean, have you seen me try to insult someone, Josh? Josh, please. Like, let's be honest here. Have you seen me try to insult someone? It's not very good. I mean, I guess they can qualify as jabs because jabs are not right hooks or right straights. You actually just hit me with you already do it better than me yourself. What was it? Because what was it? I forgot the context. Oh, take that. Oh, you already just hit me with you already do. Oh, yeah, that's true. But that's serious. It's not a jab. It's more like a right straight. More like a butt kick. That's more of a butt kicker than a jab. No wonder. I'm sorry. I feel like tell me how if I'm wrong. I think you respond more to butt kicks than jabs. I think jabs like deflect off of you because you're already so used to doing it yourself to yourself. That a butt kick is more resilient and perhaps could motivate or inspire you to say enough is enough and take off the gloves, right? I don't know. I'm trying a different approach today. I'm a little sassier today, I guess. I have a bit of more of an attitude today, I guess. Okay, here's what I'm gonna say. Josh, you hit me with the truth though, but listen, I remember conversations or the elements and ideas of the conversations really, really well. And there was a certain someone that told me, don't give me the BS. I'm more here for the truth. Those are not the words you used, but that was the semblance of the concept that that you mentioned like 6 months ago, maybe. That you require the quick slap and the kick in the rear end as opposed to euphemisms and lower barriers are the key words, lowering the barrier. So instead, I'm just going to toss a powder keg at you instead of lowering the barriers. I'm weaponizing what you're saying. That's unfair. Like I won't like that's just I'm gonna stop doing that now. No. I'm just kidding. Well, I'm not really kidding, but I do not mean it in a malicious intent, but I do mean it to make it meaningful. I went too far. All right. Well, I'll take a few steps back. Maybe I'll get a little nearer to the line. But yes, yes, that. I don't know what I don't have any more hot takes today. So wait, Josh, you didn't tell me about your call. You didn't tell me about your call. Oh no. So is not the grandest of that's not a great conjunction. Okay. Go on. Nice. Merit is a solid starting point. That sounds like a golden opportunity. Wait, did they give you it on the spot and you did it, or you're going to do it? Like, has the deadline passed, or are now you have a deadline and you're gonna do it? Next week, okay. Okay. I thought maybe like the deadline was like 24 hours or something. Like, hey, heavy recruiting and you just finished or something, and send it in and hope for the best kind of thing. Or like a 30-minute like test or something, like on the interview test or something like that. You know, because data science and things like that tends to be on the spot. Wasn't heavy recruiting, it was connection abuse. You mean nepotism? No, I'm just kidding. No, that's... How can you abuse connections? That's a weird way of... That's... That's a weird way. That's a very pessimistic way of looking at networking. But we love nepotism. It sounds like it's very auspicious. Not the color red, but auspicious. That's right. I remembered. Not auspicious as in the color red, but auspicious as in good faith. Sounds like your recruiter has good faith. When offering an opportunity for merit-based tasks, it's often... I'm not going to say that I understand the cultural hiring process in Hong Kong. I don't. But generally speaking, when it comes to like that type of offer, it's an investment. It's already a step towards potential investment. Like, hey, here's a telltale sign. I'm willing to invest. They could just outright reject you, right? That's the bottom line. Just outright saying, no, not interested. But this screams interested. So that's wonderful. No pressure though. The ball is in your court, Joshing. Do you already have everything planned? Did you manage your time? This might all sound overwhelming, but I imagine it's worth reiterating. Do you have this all planned out and whatnot? Did you delegate your time? Find out what your bottom line is? Procedurally come up with the steps that you want, allocate your time in a very visualized and actualized manner so that you can keep yourself on task. Oh, you looked at the data set this morning? Okay. To reiterate what we talked about last time, right, Josh? Procedural intent, right? Procedural. Outline the steps, like how much of the data set you want to work on, like maybe 30 minutes a day. That would get you like through a quarter of the data set, and then maybe you do it over 4 days, which gets you through the whole data set. All right? Procedural actualization intent. And then I have to spam the same 2 keystrokes like over. Can't you just script that? No, I haven't done most of that. I look. Oh, Josh, hot take. Do you have access to ChatGPT? And is the data set on Excel or a popular data set? Yes to both. You can ask ChatGPT for the function with respect to the cell and the operation, and use that function as a guide to create the operation. Joshing, I would highly suggest, in my opinion, professionally, as a person who's gonna like pragmatically to be efficient, it is well worth the investment to utilize something like ChatGPT for a very prominent sorting, like anything that's a very prominent app. You can use ChatGPT to use vernacular and the designations to create a scaffold for function creation. And function creation is more like scripting anyways, but Excel specifically has built-in scripting, right? So functions, you can ask it for a function. You can still do it for Python if you know that your thing is using Python or a well-known lower language. You can still ask GPT to create a scaffold, even test it, like, you know, duplicate your data set and see if the results, you know, you can a random sample test the function. It can be a lifesaver. It's very encouraged. It's a utilization of a tool that will be prominent in the future. I would highly encourage that. If not, just for fun, to educate yourself. Like, you know, it's a really powerful tool, and it requires I mean, you like low effort, right? That does lower the effort. So I would highly encourage that if you haven't already tried that. Would I disclose that you do that? I mean, it's still your work because you have to modify it, but still. So unfortunately, my Excel subscription has ended, but I think perhaps importing it into R will work. R does work. You can also import it if you have a Google account, like a Gmail account. You can import it into Documents. Documents inherit all of Excel's function capability. So you can use Google Sheets. Impart the data set into Google Sheets, and then use the same function. Yeah, not Coffer Sheets. Coffers is a Pepega. Don't not Coffer Sheets. Shush, Josh, stop. Cease and desist with the sheets. What I mean is, you can try that. I would highly encourage it, and it. You can get to the point where you could use R. You can even use R and maybe not R specifically. Perhaps like something that can call an external extension, maybe like Python and stuff. But you can, in the future, even weave GPT into your workflow. Like you can get the program to call GPT and then use that as a scaffold. And then you can create a troubleshooting loop to make sure to check it out. Like, a loop to troubleshoot random sampling. So it's great. So I would highly encourage it. Joshing, I don't know if you've done that. It's been a really long time since I worked with data science, but ChatGPT, something like that, didn't exist when I was working in R and Python and Perl. Like that stuff, it takes too much. To me, it takes too much semantic knowledge. I think there's so much time used up for semantic knowledge that GPT can simply negotiate that time for you. So I would do that, or I would encourage you to do that. It would, in my opinion, it's the GOAT. There's a lot of chance to increase your efficiency. I mean, Coffers is maybe a year out from integrating something similar in terms of animation, but don't skimp on current tools. Stay relevant, right? I guess this is my DRes day. Yeah. It could be. Gosh, listen. You want to hear a romantic outcome? I want this to be the day that you've realized and it paved the road for you to demonstrate how efficient you can be with AI tools and be ahead of your competition. All right? That's what I'm saying. I don't know enough. I'm going to tell you now, I don't know enough of how that's going to work because I don't have a task to do that. Like I don't work in data sciences, right? I don't work in data sciences. So, but the idea, the fundamental and the conceptual understanding of what a tool can do and its applications, it's the $1 million question. So hopefully, like you, this is not my idea. I've synthesized this idea from looking at the trends of data science. So I get a lot of data science recommendations on YouTube, like my algorithm, and the integration of GPT and extensions. By the way, GPT is a malleable dynamic API. So you can, not only that, it can take in extensions. And what you can do is you can organically use vernacular and hold conversation with it. It's not when you type in GPT, you'll get this stuff. So like what I mean is it'll born from the most popular videos. Just I would definitely put data and GPT as your keywords. It's excellent. They're really short as a matter of fact kind of things. But what's nice about GPT is it's dynamic to you. So all you have to do is, in my opinion, simplified, know how to manipulate GPT to your advantage. And those are like short 5-minute things, right? 5-minute videos like, hey, do this and this. That's a great idea. That's a starting point. And then you'll, in my opinion, invest now, you're going to get so many hours back later. Every like 5 or 10 minutes you invest in understanding how a tool works, especially a trendy tool, because GPT is here to stay. There is no metric, in my opinion, that suggests that GPT will disappear. In fact, it's to the point where, I don't know if you guys heard, Google has announced that there's going to be a competitor for GPT. It's probably proprietary. It's called Bard, right? It's so disruptive. GPT is so disruptive right now that competitors are still playing catch up. So it is fundamentally going to be a tool that's going to be supported, third person supported, open source supported. So investing in a tool that has no chance of fading will provide crazy returns. So 5-10 minutes every day looking at fun things that people can do with GPT is amazing. It will, one day it'll be useful. Like you'll know, like, hey, I remember this thing and whatnot. And it's part of your career path, right? It makes it even more important. So now you're emotionally invested. Data science is gonna be revolutionized, in my opinion. That sounds really bold, but things like GPT, I'm not gonna say GPT itself, but things like GPT will inherently be applicable to the bootstrapping and the high throughput analyses of large data sets. It's something like a second coming of data science. There was a time when you had to understand Python and Perl and R and MATLAB in order to manipulate things from scratch. So you have to dig into syntax and you have to dig into foundational work and remind yourself of all the minuscule, not automated, laborious searching, like keyword searching. GPT is circumventing that. And it can only improve with larger sample size. So you inherently will contribute to that using the tool for that purpose. And when you generate that market demand, just like other people who are using this, it encourages those who understand the fundamentals of this type of machine learning AI to improve it for those purposes. It's like how R was made. R is a result of a maturation of a specific native language served specifically for data science. In fact, I don't use R that much. I actually use Python most of the time to manipulate data in and out from like converting the Excel and stuff into strings and matrices. I mean, sometimes I actually even use MATLAB more than I use R, but R is a specialized language, and GPT could become like a fork. Someone could fork GPT specifically for data science, and you can contribute to that. That could be your marketing thing too. Although it is weird that GPT is only available in certain places, and I can understand that. But I guess you already got the VPN workaround. It makes you invaluable. I don't know if... See, I don't even work in data science anymore, Josh. But when I saw GPT, the first thing I think about to actively participate in things, like when I'm talking about media and movies and shows and stuff, the first thing I'm thinking about, the many of the first things I'm thinking about is, how does that apply? How can I apply that? What am I learning? How can I actively remember how useful this thing is? Like this game, I'm breaking down the components of the game. I'm not really asking myself if I enjoy the game first. It's not really that important. I enjoy it by understanding more about it. And GPT is the exact same thing. When we talk about like when someone asked me about AI art, well, I had to know something about AI art. How do I apply it? In fact, I didn't tell Coffers though, but I've been experimenting hamsters with AI art. But anyways, that's besides the point. No one ever asked me like how much effort I put into things. Cuz I think quite a lot. I honestly think if you ask me, you'd be surprised how much, to me specifically, how low effort I place into things. And what I mean by low effort is meaning I'm just efficient. I can't compete in the quality section. Like, right, what I mean is there's going to be a person who is ridiculously fundamentally just gifted, like prodigy and stuff. But and a big but, while they're getting diminished returns by getting 99% or something, I'm going the efficiency route. I want someone to think that I do a good job, but I'm also getting the biggest value for my time. That's what, in my opinion, going back to something you mentioned like a week ago or 2 weeks ago, that makes you employable. Yes, the 80-20, the 80-20 split. I'm glad you brought that up. I'm the 80-20 rule person. When I reached 80 percentile in OSU, I've got it. That's how it goes. And I know I'm being realistic. So when someone asks me, "Hey, do you think you're the best at this?" My answer is no, I don't. Because I don't strive to be. If they ask me, "Do you want to be the best?" I'm going to say, "I don't." Do you need me to be the best? If they say yes, I'm not fit for you. I'm going to go look for a different job. It's clear cut. Like, no loss to them. I'm not going to waste their time if they're looking for the best, because I'm not the best. I'm not even striving to be the best. If they say, "Hey, if you could be the best, and you be the best, and we'll do everything for you," that's a little tempting. But the offer has to be right, you know? Like, for me personally. However, if they're asking, "Can you get this job done when we need it to get done?" Absolutely. Can you do it sufficiently? Absolutely. Can you do it fast? Yes. Do you demand a lot? No, because I'm efficient. Like, I have less demands. Like, here's a great mindset with the cake and eat it thing. For me, someone can pay me less and I will be more content because my appreciation for my effort is less. Like, what I mean is I'm not viewing my efforts as less valuable. It's just I'm inputting less. So therefore, I know that I'm being overvalued either way. So when someone makes and I'm not saying those people don't produce the greatest things I ever do, like I've ever seen. I consume that. I consume people who like created an absolute, like the Sistine Chapel or something, like the sorry, I was about to say DiCaprio, the Da Vinci's of today. That's absolutely amazing, but that's not me. I will create a facsimile of it that largely is 80% good to go. Like most people would think that I've worked really hard with it. That's great. I've accomplished my task. I used to be like that though. I used to think as a scientist when I was in my 20s, I thought I was destined. I was the main character. I was destined to be the 99th percentile. I mean, I was the 99th percentile, to be honest. Like, statistically, at that time, I was. But I realized for myself, for my health, that's not sustainable for me. If I was still that now, I would retire around this time. which technically I guess you could consider me retired already. I burned out so fast. Like my candles were burned 4 ways. Like I wasn't burning at both ends of the candlestick. I was burning 4 ways. I don't even know how that's possible, but it felt like my candle, like someone just threw the candle into an open fire. Is what happened. I burned out so fast. So I don't want to end up being like that anymore. And if you ask the brilliant people, like those people who strive for high quality, eventually they burn out. So, and then they relegate to being efficient. It's not to say you're destined to be it. There are individuals who will go their entire lifetime. I'm just not one of them. I don't have the endurance or the stamina to do that. And I'm okay with that. As long as you find compromise and understanding. Like I made a deal with myself that I'm not going to burn at both ends. Maybe some outside force can compel me to do that for another 5 or 10 years and then retire again. But I can tell you, I really thought I could like teach 2 classes, do research, get a grant, and still have time to apply to a exceptional university for a tenure job. That was unbelievably, like, reflecting upon my past. It's like, what was I? Like, I was, like, how could I possibly think I was such a superstar? And that, to me, it sounds like I'm trying to make myself sound like a superstar now. But back in the day, I thought it was like, that's how hard you had to work. Like, that's the only way you can make it. It's the only way you can feel happy about yourself. Like, I was so way over my head, I lost sight of how incredibly a terrible imposter I was. Like, to the point where when someone said, oh yeah, you're doing this and this and this, that's great. It's like, no, it doesn't feel great. Like, I'm not in a tenure position. I don't have like 5 papers published in like science or something. Like the standard was just so outrageous, and that's what I see in a lot of kids these days. And I don't want to remove their ignorance, right? I don't want to remove their naivety, but at the same time, if they're going to ask me about realism and stuff, I will eventually inadvertently remove that naivety from them. So in a way, I kind of feel a little guilty sometimes for being indirectly squashing their like more romantic aspirations. But for me, that realization came really early anyways, because I burned so bright. I think Icarus had a better shot at reaching the sun. Like, I was out before I took off. You gotta look at all the ways you fall short of your expectations and beat yourself for it. No, yeah, you could choose that. I mean, that sounds like something you're doing right now, Josh. I'm sorry. I don't do that anymore, obviously. That's what the self-care, that's why those self-help books emphasize the balance and dynamics and being compromising with yourself. You're in a conflict of interest with yourself. I think your strongest opponent for conflict of interest is yourself. And reaching a compromise and a settlement is maturity in working. That's where wisdom helps buffer all the devastations of your dreams and aspirations. It's quite literally what I would say is you're more mature, or you've aged quicker if you come to the realization that you can be happy without being the best. It's not for everyone, and most people come at it at a different age, some earlier, some later. Mine just happened to be really early. Like, really early. It's to the point where this is how brightly I burned. I can retire, Joshing. Like, I already told you I was efficient right? I was efficient, but I burned my childhood away. Joshik, I burned my 20s away, Joshik. Like, right now, what Coffers is doing and enjoying and doing things slowly with less stress, I was burning. Like, I was burning my fuel. So, like, is it a win or isn't it a win, right? Earlier on today, I was talking to Adam and Eric about a YouTube short, a TikTok short. I'm going to take this back to the beginning of today's game night. The topic was, there was this TikTok video. It was a TikTok video about a lady that said millennials feel like they're aging differently, like they aged less compared to like the generations flanking them. And we were talking about how is this perception, you know, let's just assume it's true. Basically, Adam talked about the pragmatism and like the subjectiveness and the causality and all that stuff, which is what we typically do most of the time. Like, you investigate the feasibility of perception of that nature. But let's just say it's assuming true, right? Let's say it's assumed to be true. Well, yeah, sort of. But I'm a millennial that embraced the Zoomer culture, right? I'm more the exception than the rule in this case, if I have to be honest with myself. I actually think the millennials transitional generation, because they are skirting many philosophies, they are given many tools to settle and compromise. You're slightly outside that range. We are a decade apart. So you are much closer to a closed off group that may feel like you have less options than more options. And going back to that, for me, I was a, what do you even call it? And like a star that burned out so fast. But I reached the end game, I guess, if you can say it like that. However, I lost the experience. Like I leapfrogged over the other experience. So what experience like that? Let's just be serious. Like, I'll give you some serious voluntary information. People don't ask me about this all the time. Occasionally they did. Like, I'm alone. I'm alone. Like, just comprehend that for a sec. If you're burning brighter than anyone else, what happens? You become alone during a period that you typically don't want to be alone. Like, you lose that opportunity. Like, how do I build bridges now when everyone else built bridges already? I burned all my bridges. I burned so brightly that I burned all my bridges. Like, I didn't even have time to build bridges. Well, now I am retroactively, Josh. So I'm living my 20s now when I couldn't during my actual 20s. So if you think about it this way, it's not to say it's inevitable or inevitable that these stages happen. They don't have to happen in a specific order anymore. Like, it's really confusing. So, but inherently, I don't want to sound like a fatalist. Take it with a grain of salt. You go through stages whether you like it or not. If you're in different orders, it still happens. Humans have a propensity to want to experience things they haven't experienced before. Like, a propensity, for better or for worse. Most of the time it's very euphoric. Like, you have the utmost optimism on new experiences. Like, your job is going to be a start of a new chapter for you. It's going to be very ambivalent. There's a lot of emotions. Like, for me, I keep telling people, literally right now, I'm younger than I was 10 years ago. If you ask, if somehow I was able to embody my thought process when I was 20, you would not hear me ever talk about the things I talk about now. Like, I would be talking about work. It would always be about work, non-stop. It's always work. The moment you tell me something, I will try to solve your problem for you. Like, if you ask me to do, like, if you show that you are not meeting your results, I will do the results for you. And then you will give me credit for it. No, like, it was, I was a person who understood better, or an urgency to have to force myself to do something I don't particularly do now, which is the funny comment about quid pro quo. But generally, I help you expecting to be helped back, and I will do it faster than you, and then you owe me with any effort you amount. I'm not here to help you help me. I'm here to help you, and you're gonna pay me back. That's just it. I'll do it more efficiently. It's just gonna cost you more time. I'm not helping you to grow you. I'm helping you to grow me. So my network, my influence is why I'm helping you. And that was the cutthroat type of like youth thing. And it happens all the time. I'm telling you, young content creators, that's how it works. And I'm not saying that they're internalizing this. Like, when I was young, I was not wise enough or mature enough to know the bigger picture. Like, what I mean is, the aspiration and dreams and passion and stuff made me narrow-minded, right? Like, I'm not cultured enough to. So what it was I got to get done. I got to get educated, make money, like all that stuff hyper focused my candle burning, and it became more or less an obsession. And I mean, you know, you're over there, so I reckon you would understand the pressure you place yourself in. And then when you fail, you fall out like a gigantic rock. Like, any missteps, it just feels like you just derailed so fast that you're like in the next galaxy over. But I'm not like that. Like, I don't do that anymore. And here's the thing, right? This is what, in my opinion, this is what age and rationalization and like conscientiousness gets you. I would do it all over again to reach my point in my life. So I don't have this perspective if I didn't do it. Now, self-care, like self-help books and like get rich strategies and stuff, that's all in retrospect. So the problem with that, in my opinion, my professional opinion, is that it eliminates the element of experience, and it's so unpredictable to supplant or substitute for experience to safeguard something. The reason I am the way I am today with my perspectives and the way we're having these discussions is because I burned. Like, I tell people about like, oh yeah, you know, these are the pitfalls, they're gonna burn out, like here are the patterns. This content creator, I'll give them 5 years based on their pragmatism and how frequently and their aspirations. Like, all this stuff is coming from my own, like, finding converging evidence and finding antagonistic statistics that refute what happened to me, and usually using that as an extension. I'm not saying that this person will burn out in 5 years because I don't understand firsthand why that happened. I did. That's what happened to me. I'm on Twitch catering to legacy building that is not dependent on the urgency of being successful because I burned out so early in life. Will I try again? I mean, I'm young enough to try again. I guess, like, in a different way. Like, I'm certainly not going to become, like, I don't know, a competitive esports player or, like, a professional soccer player or something. But there's still an opportunity for me to, like, ham it out for 5 or 10 years in something and then call it quits again. So, yeah, no, there are a lot of people that are doing it. now that's already have more experience than I do. But it is tough. And you can't undo it, Josh. So I don't I it's not an answer to your calls. It's not an answer to anyone's calls, but like it's not clear. But you can't undo. So now whenever I think about getting another job, my first inclination for myself is, will I burn out in this job? I need a job that doesn't have an uncapped ceiling. I need games that have capped ceilings, because I burn out a lot and I understand that. Some of my favorite influencers who play video games, who also used to work in game development and stuff, they come, like, the whole self book, like coincidence and whatnot. It's not a coincidence. The most emphatically successful people, emphatically is not the word I'm looking at. The efficacious, the most efficacious people who reach success, you know, they're defined by whatever, early, are those individuals who burned out the fastest. And then they go through that life experience, which you just said, where burning out is a great way of building character. It is, in a way. It's unfortunate, but it's a human condition. So to accept, if you have something that you're willing to burn yourself out with, that is the winner. It is the winner, Josh. The only problem is, it's kind of like drinking alcohol. You got to get ready for the hangover. You could keep telling yourself you're the main character of the story and you'll never burn out like Icarus. But the chances of you not burning out and becoming really, really good at something, that is absurdly low. You can be one of the geniuses who have unlimited resources until death do you part, to pursue something that's super, super great and not expect to burn out. I don't believe that is realistic, but that's because my personal experiences, I was not the sun. Like, I imploded really, really quickly. I mean, suns don't implode. I burn out, basically. Like, and I don't know if I want to do that again. So in a way, I guess I can empathize with you on feeling permanently burned out. I live for others now. If you reach, in my opinion, the last stage, or like one of the fewer stages, like the latter stage that people may or may not reach, actually most people probably wouldn't reach, is that I'm at a stage where I live for other people. I no longer live for myself. And I hope I can continue living for other people. Maybe even, like, you know, a little one or something in the future. You wanted to, but it's so hard. Yeah, I know. It takes a lot. You have to measure your emotional investment. My emotional investment was, like, it was my parents' aspirations, my entire family's aspirations. Like, I did not have any distractors either, right? Like, my parents were willing to pay for me, but even that was not a distractor for me. I made money to go to college. So, like, all that stuff, I don't want to say this in a way that I'm lucky or something, because there are trade-offs. I was born with a lack of distractors that a lot of younger people were likely to entangle, right? Love, that was not a distractor for me when I was a kid. Heck, it wasn't even distracted from being in college. Not even graduate school. I don't even think now. So emotional upheaval, the whole, like, adolescent hormonal imbalance or something, that was completely suppressed. That was just non like, whether you call it nurture or nature or whatever, it was just non-existent when I was a kid. It wasn't even existent when I was a young adult. So, like, for example, I lacked the capacity to feel crummy. I was so up in my pragmatism that I didn't have time to cry to myself or like feel the baggage or like have the emotion catch up to me. I was burning so hard, I didn't even feel sorry for myself that I'm living alone. There was no time to process that. And it sounds like the Zoomer life. That's why I'm using in my opinion, that's what I think I'm using my story to make it relatable to the Zoomer. I'm a millennial, right? A millennial period person that really hit the Zoomer thing by coincidence. Like you have to burn bright as a Zoomer. Like you just have to, like it's the system. You have to just burn brighter than your competition. And just by sheer coincidence, when I was a kid, it was all about burning really, really bright. And I've already told my parents like whatever I'm doing is fine. Like, and my parents are already okay with it because they know that if I wanted to, I could make beyond my means, but I don't want to make beyond my means. I'm past the accumulation period. It is nice though. Like what I'm saying is John and Hank, I love them a lot because they are 10 years older than me. They're like almost a generation ahead of me. And they've already passed the point where they live for others, right? They live for others, the appreciation of themselves, but living for others. And they're at a stage where they don't go out to accumulate more wealth. They accumulate wealth to live for others. So they raise money to enable other people. So they understand the pragmatism of needing to accrue money to create legacy. However, accumulating money is a different story. Accumulating legacy is like the GOAT, but the whole like emphasis on needing to accumulate resources beyond your means, I'm over that stage. And some individuals I feel like even to this day don't even leave that stage. I don't even think Warren Buffett has left that stage, and he's like what 80, 90 years old, and he's still offering advice about how to accumulate wealth. Like, yeah, it's different, but that's probably his passion. It's what he lives for. So I have no like disrespect for that. It's great. Like, that's awesome. That's not me though. There's something about the inherent need to accumulate more than I would want to use doesn't inherently inspire me to do more with it. So for example, I need a task. I'm goal oriented, right? As you may say, I'm objective oriented. So if I need to make money for something to happen, I'll do it. I don't want to have money so that when I need to do something, I have it. I don't want to it's blasphemous what I'm about to say because my parents and I have a conflict of interest. I want to do something when I have to, not do something just in case or hopeful. I do it though. I do have enough to say that I can cover bad days. However, it's the least of my concerns. My parents, on the other hand, they're very classical. They're like, hey, if you do it, keep doing it. Like you need to make sure you can live 4 lifetimes. You need to accrue enough resources that you can live 4 lifetimes, and you can like live for 5 of you. I'm like, that's I want to take as much resources as I can to fit the footprint that I'm using. Like I don't know if you ever calculated your carbon footprint. My carbon footprint is horrendously small. So just for the record, like I do not find it compelling And I do find it narcissistic and arrogant. Not that it's a bad or a good thing. It's whatever drives your boat here. But for me, I find it narcissistic and arrogant that you find that an individual finds pride that they can consume and take more than they really need to, or that they take pride in demonstrating that they can. It's a little, there is some wiggle room because like Mr. Beast, right, is kind of sort of doing that, but he's distributing, he's creating legacy, so he's recontributing and reattributing. That's a whole different story than taking pride in just demonstrate that you can. So I'm not in this anymore. I used to be like that, I guess. That's how you get legacy. That's how you become success, become employable, right? How do you get employable? You got to demonstrate that you can do things just because you can. Oh, you didn't ask for this? Well, I'm better than that other person. I'm better than most of your candidates. I'm just doing this just to show you that I can. That's kind of the can-do attitude. And I'm no longer that. Like, nowadays when someone says, hey, you suck at this game, it's like, all right, cool. It no longer, like, lights the fire under my butt anymore. Like, I'm no longer feeling like I'm challenged to prove a point anymore. And that's when the fire burned out. That's, in my opinion, when you get to that extent, here's one thing that I really hope there are fewer people that experience, which is your position right now, where you feel burned out, but you haven't reached a phase where you're comfortable with your security. So if you feel like you burned out and you're still insecure, that's devastating, because you have not tasted success and passion, and you are already experiencing the thing after this step. So hopefully something lights a fire in your stove or something, ignites your passion, and you can burn out for the sake of it. Or you can, get your own balance. But you have to get your fire started, right? Like, this analogy is getting a little bit old. I understand. But you gotta get something. You gotta get your ember going. I think romantically, this is a romantic optimism, but humans, when they live, at least one event in their life will allow them the burnout opportunity. They can shine and burn at least once in a lifetime. For those super lucky, they have resources to burn out more than once. But that's really lucky. Like, for example, there are not many people who have the luxury of quitting their job, pivoting to an entirely new career, burn out again, and there will still be resources for them to continue doing that. Like, keep cycling every 5 to 10 years. There is a note that nowadays a great practice for like data scientists and stuff is to like cycle jobs. Like every 2 or 3 years, you pick up a new job or something and try to stoke the flame over and over again. But that's to prevent burnout. It's one of the things that prevent burnout, and that's fair. I think that's okay. Like, I don't know how much I can say about that because I have no personal experience. I don't particularly believe in that type of thing. I think if you need to starve away burning out, for me, go big and go home. I didn't say go big or go home. I said go big and then go home. That's a personal opinion, though. Starve. Yeah, you're trying to basically, when you're constantly job cycling, you're trying to prevent the burnout. You're trying to prolong that cycle, which great. Starve off, yeah. like stave off. Sorry, stave off. Yeah, stave off that. Yes. So you're trying to prevent it. I don't know if that's the proper phrase. I'm just going off on a tangent. And it could be with anything. Is it? It can be a lot of things. But the thing is, and this is really bad. I think this is very undesirable. It's very inconsistent. When the thing that strikes you first and society isn't trending with you, that's a tough one too. And like you could be in a position, you know, the position is, for example, maybe society does not trend with something you find passionate, therefore you don't ever encounter your passion state. However, there is another state that happens a lot where you become passionate about something and you're burning out like a crazy star, but it's something that doesn't line up with demands. That's also a form of being unlucky, a less opportune moment. You can make something of it, improve you can be so good that you can say, well, you can't ignore me. You want this. I mean, Elon Musk kind of did that, right? But what are the chances that happen? You could be so good that the world has to notice you. That's, again, I'm not a prescriber of exceptionalism at that scale. I think you can do it in a small enough scale for sure. Like if you can take that approach, but that's diminished returns, and some form of realism and awareness can safeguard you from the inevitable disappointment. And what I mean by inevitable disappointment is those who think so highly of themselves. It's inevitable that at some point you will end up disappointing yourself. Those who do things with the awareness that it happens, it won't feel very bad. Like what I mean is awareness can see it as not a bad thing or a good thing, or like less of a bad thing and maybe more of a acceptable thing. Like for me, I get disappointed all the time. It's not a negative feeling, not really. Like when Fictitious and I talk about stuff for quite a lot, you often probably hear me say like, I'm disappointed but not surprised. Like being surprised would mean that there's a chance I could feel sad or like unexpected about disappointment. But being pleasantly surprised, I also remove that. So I can't be pleasantly happy about something if I'm not surprised either. But I'm certainly not sad when I get disappointed. Dang, now I'm being reminded of the Bleach what? The insert song? Which song are we talking about? There's a song about disappointment? Oh, number one. Oh, okay. Fair enough. And just as a disclaimer, I'm not saying I'm gonna retire or anything. I don't ever feel like retirement is a thing for someone like me. You don't just stop building legacy, in my opinion. I mean, I like to say that, but my parents are still around. My sister is away. She's healthy, but there is a chance. There's still a chance. I'm not saying it won't or will happen. I'm just saying at the moment, I do not desire or see that I am ever going to retire. It's very different from what will or will not happen. I cannot anticipate that. At the very moment, I don't ever feel like I can retire. I'll be doing what I'm doing now probably every waking hour of my life. Perhaps in the future there'll be like a catastrophic experience or something that will stop me from caring about people, right? Or going out of my way to talk about a life lesson or something. That can happen. Like, I don't know. I mean, I thought about my parents are senior citizens now. So the death of my parents, my immediate parents, could make me not give any care to anyone else. I can't anticipate that. I like to think it won't, but that's very bold. That's very bold. Human emotions are very, very vastly unpredictable, especially when you're trying to estimate how you yourself feels. I'm not a person who prescribes to a tenet or a zealous principle yet. You know, I could suddenly become an embracer of spiritualism or something that is very rigorously strict, that can cause me to be partial to something, which that could happen in the future. If I need like comfort or coping, I obviously am gonna need some sort of coping strategy for a death of a loved one, because I've experienced it a couple times, but it isn't my immediate family member. So that's always a distinct possibility. Yes, I'm a 30-year-old. I mean, I thought about this when I was 20. I was more concerned about teenage death, like drunk driving deaths. What if my life just ends because I got into a car when I was 16 to learn how to drive, than worrying about the girl next door. I was already 30. When I was 16, I was already 30. I was working when I was 16. Maybe somewhat sussy as a full-time employee, but yeah. Yep. Fun times. Fun times. I'm not sure if I would I haven't asked Eric and Adam how they felt, like what their priorities were. Well, I know what Eric's priority was. Eric, for some reason, he was like the dude. He was like the leader. It's interesting. I'll ask him like in the future, in retrospect. So with all that said, I hope this opportunity is your it's the one, Josh. You could be one alternative is you could make yourself believe. You could gaslight yourself to believing it's the one and just commit completely, but we know how that goes. I've lost all my steam already. Last night I was like, this is the one. Oh, okay. And your hype, your grounded realism already took you down, placed you down on Earth. You just went to Cloud 9 and immediately came down, got slapped down by the reality hammer or something. Or maybe your pessimism slapped it down a few notches. It seems pretty auspicious. Gosh, auspicious. But I'm not a very encouraging person. You got reminded, how so? Are you telling me that your pessimism reminded you of how much you suck? You really do like self-inflicting wounds. It's a very auspicious opportunity. I think you're good. Or, I'm trying to be encouraging, but some part of myself is telling me there is a chance this won't work out, but there will be other opportunities. But that's what I want to say realistically. So I'll just say it like that. But it sounds like a demonstration of interest. So that's great. How long does it take for you to figure out? Yeah, I'm not very encouraging. Fake. Fake news. Yeah, you know, I'll give you the realistic hammer all the time. What is the odd? Actually, can you tell me something? Have you actively looked at the higher potential of someone your age and your profile? Have you done a cross examination of your qualifications and got like some sort of converging evidence or like professional career advice that estimated your odds of employability? Is there like a career center or something that helps with giving you like some lowdown or informed decision that this is going well, going not so well? Like, because you live in a different, you live in a different place under a different culture. So I have no frame of mind. If you're asking me as an American, your experience is extremely optimistic. Like if you lived in the United States, it's a time for celebration. Like what you have achieved, the opportunity you were given, like it's very, very positive. However, I don't know what it's like to be where you are, in my opinion. Like it doesn't even seem like you were rejected that many times. I echo what Eric said as well. As professionals, like as a former professional, rejection is like 90% of the time. Like realistically, rejection isn't that you did not qualify. It's just the match was not opportunistic enough. It's more that often than being unqualified, in my opinion. And personally, compromising, mitigating compromising and waiting sometimes can be a positive and a positive experience. It can increase the odds of success, but you can't see it. It can decrease too, but what I'm saying is like it is a learning experience, but generally speaking, the success rate of landing your first position is very low, at least in the United States. So I can't possibly tell you. I mean, I might sound encouraging because I think, relatively speaking, I think maybe in where you are, that's very negative already. But in the United States, that's very reasonable. Finding an entry job after education, that's you're experiencing a lot of things that are culturally normalized in the United States. Very culturally normalized. If you were American, this would be run of the mill, and I don't know, 4 out of 5 adults will tell you, keep on trying. You have time. You're young, educated, and you're looking for an entry job. You're looking for someone to take a chance on you. And then the rest is history. But that chance requires opportune timing and coinciding interest. And that is very particular. And in fact, a lot of times it's encouraged to be more selective. Just because I know I'll get rejected, that often doesn't mean it doesn't wear down my... That's fair. It does. Sure. But it doesn't wear it down as much. Spectrum. We're not talking about if it does or it doesn't. It's how much. If you can converge and understand the evidence and the statistics of where you stand, it wears down your motivation less. So I agree. I agree that it doesn't prevent wearing down your motivation. It may mitigate it, though. Just I'm biased towards that. I'm partial to awareness, being able to give someone a semblance of control. And that semblance of control can mitigate how great it is and how bad it is. So like it does the opposite too, where like your success will be less rewarding knowing the realism too. Like for example, if with that discovery of the success rate and then you were succeeding, it can also dwarf if you find out like, oh, it's very common for this to happen, and it did. So it's not as remarkable, right? So it lowers the range. And you have to ask yourself, right? Are you the person who values consistency in one's emotions? Like, is that going to help you maintain stability or sustainability? Or are you the guy who likes riding roller coasters? I'm not a guy that likes riding roller coasters. I don't want to be on cloud 9 one day and then in the dumps another day and then cloud 9 again. That sounds like a teenager reaching for the stars. You go for the stars, you fail, you get knocked down into the pits, and then rebuild yourself up again and try again. Constantly going for home runs instead of going for bases. Oh, sorry, that's a baseball reference. I mean, yeah, baseball is international. I don't know why I suddenly went with a baseball analogy, but I steal bases one at a time. I don't go for home runs anymore. As a kid, I went for a home run. I shared this story already. The first home run that I tried to go for, and I basically struck out, like incredibly struck out, is when I thought I was gung-ho enough to be an MD PhD candidate. Like, you know, oh, PhDs are cool. It's like, but a medical doctor is cool, and my parents want to be a medical doctor, but I don't want to be a doctor in a hospital. I want to be a clinician. It's like, oh, sweet. I'll try to get ready for MD PhD, even though I spent most of my college not being ready for med school. And, well, reality struck. I clearly wasn't prepared. I was most definitely not prepared for standardized testing for med school. I didn't even have the correct mindset, the aptitude, the habits. All the habits are not even. In fact, I was so strung up on individualized thinking that I actually performed even worse on the standardized medical exams. Like, legitimately, what I was strong at made me worse at standardized medical exams. I don't remember what the score was, but it was like 45th percentile or something. I was below average. Personally, I don't like standardized testing. I don't agree with it, but that's besides the point. That's my, like philosophy, PhD background, speaking for standardized testing. But there must be some sort of basic standards because medicine is a bottom line thing. Medicine has a bottom line. PhDs and philosophy and things of that nature do not have a bottom line, generally speaking, like from a thinking process. It's a bit more flexible and inclusive. But I totally understand why it's standardized. I still don't agree with it. That standardized testing is a poor metric, but that's only coming from someone who isn't going into medicine. However, with that said, yeah, I was really bad. Like, I'm so terrible at standardized testing. If there's a test that forces me to handcuff myself to any particular method, I'm probably just going to score in the 80th percentile or less, and that's not good enough. 80th percentile is not good enough. Not for the goal I had. So Yeah. Terrible. Terrible. I'm stuck in a loop of knowing I should go for a base, but feeling that not going for home run is pointless, so I might as well not try. Josh, please. What if that base was like coated with all the good stuff? What if that base felt like a home run? No, that's a little tough. Here's one thing. Do you know what a home run is? Or are you making this up? What I'm saying is I'm not accusing you of I'm not trying to accuse you of being delusional. I'm saying or disillusioned, I think that's the word. Sorry, I'm not sure what the difference is, but are you do you know what a home run is? Like what is a home run to you? And is that real? You don't know anything? Oh my gosh. Disillusioned. I think that's the term. But what I'm saying is do, do you know your home run is like unrealistic? It can be very healthy for you to find out that, oh, your standards are just wickedly high, but you have no grounded evidence to believe that. You just want it to believe that. I'm not saying you are doing that. I'm sorry if I'm giving you that impression, but it can really help. It can help. Realism can bring you down and help you potentially not overestimate what is a home run. And perhaps maybe that base that you're thinking of is a home run, like the realistic home run. And then it'll be like a home run. But don't meta yourself and say like, well, if I know the first base is a home run, then the new first base is lower than the new home run. And let's not go there. That's cyclic thinking. But I wanted just to ask you, do you have evidence? Like, do you know if the home run you're thinking is realistic? Okay, here's a hot take. I know a kid, tangentially, over these 4 years. It's not anyone that I know now or talk to. I just observed a kid who said to me 4 years ago, maybe 3 years ago, that I'm going to be the best. I am the best, at least in this country or forever known. And the only thing I can ever accept is to be the best at it. They are almost the best now at what they do or what they wanted to do 3 years ago. So just because you have unrealistic expectations doesn't mean it doesn't drive you to achieve them. But if you're in damage control, right? If you're someone who's in damage control out of fear, knowing what's realistic could help you mitigate the fear. It narrows down the ambivalence, is what I'm saying. This person, there was no room for failure. And their goal was astronomically stacked against them. But since they were unaware of the statistics, it didn't deter them from doing it. And they did. I've only talked to this person once. I just noticed. Because I had a conversation with this person. And I remember the name. And I remember the conversation we had. And just so happens by coincidence, I noticed. And this person is in the 99.99 percentile in the thing that they said they were going to be the best at. So they are quite literally indistinguishably the best. They went out of a way to achieve the unrealistic and they did it. And I know what you're thinking about. You might say you envy them, potentially, but I don't. So I'll let you figure out why I don't then. You sacrifice something for it. Like you compromise for something for it. So Good for them, I hope, and they're very, very happy and proud. But I would never envy something outside my own actions. Just a food for thought. I think reading about your chances, you can't undo it. It's a one-time deal. But perhaps understanding what is realistic and what is not can make it hurt less, and maybe also raise your motivation. Don't you dare tell me it's going to demotivate you. Well, you can, but I hope it doesn't. I'm gonna head out now. It's late. But thanks for chatting. Gosh. We'll reconvene in the next I don't know. Yeah, it's late. It's what is today? Wednesday? Yeah, it's late. It was fun. The next tomorrow. Yeah, the next blue moon. And I hope I hear good news, all right? Knock it out of the park, Josh. Hot take though. GPT, do it. Do it. It's a great you can even ask GPT to say, what should I consider saying in an interview for a job? And then you can use it as inspiration. It's a really wonderful tool. Like, you can data mine apprehension. Like, if you have questions that you don't want to ask me, you could ask GPT and it can kind of do a summation of something. I already mentioned this at another digression. GPT is remarkably great at mirroring what I would say, like in a nutshell, because it's collectively trying to give you an evidence-based response. And that's what I strive to do. And if I can't, I will deflect it by saying I don't have enough information, which GPT literally does. If you ask them, how do you feel about this? It's literally going to say, I can't feel anything, but here are the consensus among a group, a cohort, and these are the popular trending sentiments. So ask GPT things that you wouldn't ask a human being. It can be very informative and cathartic. So just let you guys all know that it's okay to find inspiration from something that literally lacks emotion, because that's amazing. It's objectivity in a box. Anyways, I'll let you guys go. Stay safe, stay healthy. I'll get you guys on the next one tomorrow. Osu. And more Sprout. More Rhythm Sprout. I asked GPT about my hiring potential and it hit me with a, it depends. Yeah, it does that when there's no statistics. If you narrow down your field and talk about like the specifics, if there aren't any statistics, it'll just say it depends. Yeah, which is what I would say too, because there's not enough statistics to give you a reliable converging consensus. And it will do it in a fancy way too, with like a paragraph descriptor and tell you like, oh, well, you can look at factors like this and this and this and then form your own opinion or something like that. It's a really clever thing. You can replace me with GPT easily. Anyways. All right, guys. Take care. See you next time. Talk to you later.